Yeah, that's the essence of my work, is inspiring people to expand the boundaries of what they believe is possible. And I truly believe that psychedelics are some of our most powerful allies, co-creative allies to help us do that.
Welcome to Future Factory. Today we have Laura Dawn. She is a specialist in psychedelics. You know, when you talk about psychedelics, to me, it's always been a great way to look at yourself in a different way, to be able to look at alternative ways of seeing the world. Oftentimes I get caught up in my small monkey mind, and things like psychedelics are a great way for us to notice that there's another way of thinking. Laura Dawn, she does a great job of explaining that. This show is pretty special. You're going to love this one. When we start to talk about psychedelics and the world of psychedelics, where we're going today, we are all facing a world that we're drinking off a fire hose. And I, really do believe that the gift that you are is helping us to come to another consciousness.
Hmm. Thank you. Hmm.
As we look at what I believe a lot of us are, we've gone unconscious, right? We have actually been bred and actually trained into being unconscious, right? From the time we started at school and the creativity of this kind of being trained to go into the work world and how to really start to become essentially, I want to say drones. We've actually been bred the creativity out of us, and we've been taught to behave in a certain way. And as we start to look at maybe that's not what we're all looking for. Maybe that's why we're all have so much pain that we're going through. We start to look at the world of psychedelics as an opportunity to break from that consciousness, and I think it's a gift.
I think break is one of the key words here, because what got us here is not going to get us to where we want to go. And in these times of accelerating change, where I think everyone is feeling it, I don't know anyone who is like, oh yeah, life is getting like really a lot more chill and laid back. Everyone's feeling an amplification for a multitude of reasons. And there are a lot of factors that are really contributing to these times of accelerating change, technology being one of them, AI, quantum computing. I mean, things really are accelerating on multiple levels. And I just don't think it's a coincidence that at this moment, it's really an unprecedented moment in human history, that as we are on this precipice of so much change and we are literally facing the abyss of the unknown, that we are also now have access to the very substances, these molecules that are really more like miracles that happen to fit into the receptor sites in our brains, that are essentially offering us the skill sets and the mindsets that are the very skill sets and mindsets that we need to adapt in times of accelerating change, and not to just keep up with these times of change, but to actually put a stake in the ground in our lives and say, this is what I stand for. This is how I want to build a meaningful life. And this is what it means to me. And this is what it's going to look like. And I think that actually requires a lot of courage to break from the past and say, you know what, there has been a lot of conformity. There's been a lot of, this is the way you need to live your life. And right now, one of the beauties of facing so much uncertainty is that there's also more possibility than ever before. With uncertainty is equivalently possibility. So we have an opportunity to really actually live in alignment with what we want to live, how we want to live, and how we want to create our lives. And I think that is one of a multitude of ways that psychedelics are really supporting us through these times of transition, as we literally leave behind the last era and we're sort of in the thick of, the last chapter of human history and the next chapter.
It's phenomenal you say that, right? As we know that, noticing more and more being called to this, right? Why you're on the podcast, where did this come from? I felt this calling now more than ever to really get connected with you and the work that you're doing. It's filled my soul with knowing that the constructs that I've been fed for most of my life, I don't agree with. And I'm noticing that, but it wasn't, building the language
separate from them is scary, right? To take that step and go, well, maybe the religions I've been taught, the government I've been given, the way that I've lived, some, there's been some gift in what's created there, and for certainly, we've had some success, but like you said, I don't know that that's going to take me where we're going to go. And as we enter this new realm of AI and its ability to help us support us where we're going, maybe I can step back a little bit and look at not what the world wants, maybe what does Anthony want? What do I want to do this? And as I look at your work and why your work's so different, talk to me a little bit about why your work's different than the others that are out there, and how you kind of approach it.
That's a great question. And I really appreciate that question because right now, so much of the narrative around psychedelics is so focused on how psychedelics can help treat mental illness, which is very crucial considering that we are amidst a mental health crisis. So much of the research and the narrative is, okay, how can psychedelics help treat the big four: PTSD, anxiety, addiction, and depression? And again, we need this. It was actually really the gateway into FDA approval. So we had to go that route. My work is really looking at the what I call the other side to the same coin, because when we actually, and it's actually what really inspired me to go back to graduate school and complete my Master of Science in Creativity Studies and Change Leadership. And so what I spent my years in graduate school doing was going through the existing literature, a lot of the psychedelic studies, and I looked at it through the lens of creativity research, even though it was focused on mental illness. And I mean, most people can say, yeah, psychedelics probably enhance creativity because look at the 60s. And if you know people who literally, I can count dozens and dozens of people who have never played music in their life, and then they go start sitting in ayahuasca ceremonies, and now they're blossoming musicians and writing. And not just, creativity isn't just the arts and aesthetics, it's also very applicable to business. It's being called the most important skill set of our time by the World Economic Forum. So I was really interested in why, even though despite the fact that we intuitively know that psychedelics enhance creativity, how does that happen and why is there no research on it? And that's why I went back to school and really focused my graduate degree on rereading the literature through the lens of creativity studies. And there are many hidden dots that actually are very obvious when you know what to look for. And when you connect those dots together, it makes an incredibly compelling case that creativity is not just some sort of like nice to have fluffy byproduct of the psychedelic experience. It's actually the core of their therapeutic potential, that healing and creativity actually share the same narrative. And one of my favorite definitions of creativity is by Arthur Koestler, who said, creativity is the defeat of habit by originality. And I love that quote. Creativity is the defeat of habit by originality. If you think about it, that's the same definition could be applied to the healing of depression or the healing of addiction. And addiction is something that I struggled with in my life. And when you look at that experience of even just going round and round in your thoughts, really focused on the same thing over and over and over again, that sense of rumination, stepping off of that hamster wheel of mental rumination is what can help you make a new choice in your life, help you cure addiction, but it's also the same thing that allows you to think differently, which is the catalyst for novel ideas, for innovative solutions to the challenges that we face. It's the same narrative. And I just, throughout my years of graduate school, and the more I dug in and the more I understood the research and the more I talked with other neuroscientists and people who really are doing this research, the more that I was like, wow, this is the core. And when we choose to reframe the narrative, when I say, okay, you know what, instead of saying, let's go have a therapeutic journey to heal depression, if I reframe it and say, let's have a journey to help enhance our creative thinking skills, then it changes the way we think about preparation. It changes the way we think about integration. It changes how we think about set and setting. And these are all very core pillars, major core pillars in the psychedelic space. And it helps us actually view and the psychedelic experience itself changes. It fundamentally changes how we engage. And so right now, I think the core thing is that I'm seeing people get stuck in a certain box, even in the psychedelic space, saying it has to look this way. You have to do it this way. But you know what? These are multifaceted biotechnologies that have been used across cultures for millennia in multitude of different ways. They're so multifaceted. And we have multifaceted minds. We all have, we're all human, so the brain works similarly, but at the same time, we all think differently. And so we have different perceptual lenses. Someone who's post-Mormonism, for example, or post-Christianity is going to have a very different experience with medicines than someone who's atheist, for example, or who has studied Tibetan Buddhism, for example. So there's so many complex factors, but really the core of what makes my work different is that I'm applying the underlying core mechanisms of the way that psychedelics work in the brain, which is essentially as pattern disruptors. And I'm applying that and creating programs and retreats and content to support entrepreneurs, leaders, corporate executives, creative professionals, people who want to lean into the story of psychedelics as a tool for human flourishing and awakening, rather than let's just treat the symptoms of depression and PTSD. Actually, let's run with this in the other direction and just see how incredible life can really become.
I mean, there's so much to unpack in that conversation, because I fundamentally believe that that's what happens, is that we get our creativity has gotten, and maybe even because of the way we've been designed, is the industrial revolution really created drones, right? Some of the best leaders, some of the best philosophers in the world have said, you want to take the creativity of a person, send them to school, right? All of a sudden you go to school, you learn one way of being, right? You get one way of learning, one way of being, told to sit down and listen. That we beat the creativity out of them. And the gift of psychedelics is really start to notice that we are connected to all that is, that we have this intuitive being, we have this creative nature. I've played in the psychedelic world a lot as a human, and have noticed that there is this connected to all the creativity that ever existed. And that's something that's not something I was ever gifted. I was never, there's nowhere in school that they taught me that I could bring billions of ideas to a solution. I was told this was how you fix this problem. This is how you fix this problem. And if you have this, my religion told me that I had to do this. My neighborhood told me I had to do it this way. My parents told me I had to do this. There wasn't this gift of there's a billion ideas I can choose from to bring to a solution. And maybe some of that was a gift because it helped focus the world on creating these cities and all the stuff they have. But also, I think we're noticing today that it's also causing a lot of the mental fundamental issues that we're having, because we're all feeling a little trapped in our ability to express ourselves and to be connected to all that is. These constructs have separated us essentially from ourselves, which then separates us from each other. And I am feeling alone, that aloneness feeling. I feel that more today. No matter how many things I have, I feel more alone than ever before. And I think that as we talk to you, and I watch your work, how you're connected to all that is, and you've got a really neat way of looking at, our connectedness as to creativity and to other humans and to the world and to to all that is.
Yeah, and what you're speaking to around the educational system, I mean, everyone who's in the workforce today are products of that industrial schooling system. And what you're referring to actually is convergent versus divergent thinking skills. So we were in a time that was built for the industrial era, and we're not in that era anymore. We actually have just moved into what they're calling the fourth industrial revolution, which is heavily driven by technology, particularly AI and quantum computing. And it's pretty staggering, in terms of, I don't know if you saw that the World Economic Forum just put out their 2023 Future of Jobs report, and they said that a quarter of all jobs are going to drastically change. They said tectonic shifts in the landscape. And they said that one word to sum up the next chapter of our economy is disruption. And so we were taught convergent thinking, where it was like, this is the answer, you got to do this, because that was the era of jobs that we were preparing for. And now we need to teach ourselves divergent thinking skills, which is how do we find novel solutions that it's not the low-hanging fruit, it's not the obvious solution. We need to develop that. And so actually, when you start looking at creativity from the perspective of creative problem solving. So let me just actually pause for a second. For people listening, sometimes people have a hard time really understanding the word creativity. What are we actually talking about? It's such a huge landscape. It's such a big, nebulous word that's hard to pin down and could mean a billion things. So let me just pause and actually define what we're talking about. Creativity, I think the easiest way to divide up the landscape, I call it the creativity landscape, is in 4 chunks. We have the creative person, like beliefs, attributes that help us become more creative, characteristics, and we can actually connect some very interesting dots that psychedelics help change a personality trait known as openness to experience, which is directly related to creativity. And personality traits are very hard to change, and psychedelics can change that personality trait for up to 14 months. So we have the creative person, then we have a creative process. What is the process that you go through to come up with an idea from start to finish? How do you prepare? How do you decide whether it's a good idea? How do you just evaluate the idea? And then how do you choose to implement it? When we look at the creative process, the highest level definition of creativity is how do you get your ideas that reside in the unseen dimension and how do you translate them into tangible reality? Whether that's through communicating and spreading ideas that change minds, that's what we're doing right now. I had to cultivate this. This is a process. Me being able to show up and talk like this, that's a process, right? So how do we get to that point? Maybe it's through developing a program or a product that really helps to inspire meaningful change. So we have the creative person, the process, then we have the creative product, the outcome. So these are the 4 P's. I think of it as like the end result. And then we have the creative place, the environment that we find ourselves in. The environment is so correlated with our creativity and our creative output. And there are so many interesting factors that we can look at. So when we look at the definition of creativity, essentially it's finding novel and original solutions that are useful for solving a problem at hand. So that's really the essence of what we're actually talking about here. And so when we learn about creativity and we can start looking at all the different ways that psychedelics help to support and enhance those 4 different P's. This is a model from the 60s. It's a Melrose model, the 4 P's of creativity. I developed an extra P when I was in graduate school, which is creative practices, creativity practices. How do we learn literally thinking skills, which is so fun because it's all invisible, right? Like learning conceptual tools for how the mind works is interesting because you can't see these tools. So you have to learn how to develop them in your mind and grab onto them when you need them. And actually psychedelics, as Dennis McKenna said, who is a world famous ethnobiologist who was on my podcast, brother of Terrence McKenna, he said, psychedelics are tools for teaching you how to think more creatively. And if you go into a journey with that mindset, with that perspective, it changes how you're navigating that experience. It changes your perceptual lens of how you engage with that experience. And so it's really a Pandora's box in terms of, what these medicines can help us achieve.
So what I'm struggling to try to understand is, am I born with this? Is this something that starts with me when I'm from a very young age? Are these biological things that started with me as a child?
I think it's a both of nature and nurture. I have friends who have 3 children and they'll tell me like, absolutely, each child has very distinct personalities and you nurture that, but I think one of the things that I urgently encourage people to look at is their self-belief around creativity. It's called your self-efficacy around whether you believe you are creative or not. There's actually been quite a lot of research around this, very similar to growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And if you believe that you're creative, you actually will have higher creative outcomes in your life. You'll pursue more creative activities than if you don't. It makes sense. But right now, we urgently need to overcome these old myths about creativity, that you're either creative or you're not. You either have it or you don't. There's a very small select group of creative geniuses, and then there's everyone else. Creativity is our birthright. It's woven into the fabric of our DNA. It's actually how we got here. Creativity is who we are. And the more that we understand that, the more we leverage that, the more we start to train the mind to perceive new possibility. And truly, this next chapter of human history is going to be led by people who know how to come up with innovative solutions to challenges that we face. It's visionary minds that are illuminating the way forward right now.
I think that's the thing. People talk about this every day on the podcast, that, oh my God, AI is coming, the world's over, I'm losing my job. And there's this desperate feeling, and I'm like, guys, that's not true. This is the most exciting time to be on the planet. We've never had more abundance. We've never had more capability. We've never had so many tools that can help us design, develop a way of living that's never even been imagined before. And it's a gift. And our goal right now is to keep our heads up, right? Stay focused, not get caught up in the shutterhead, brains down, drone out on TV. It's not, don't check out, check in. Now is the time more than ever to really tap into that creative part of us, because this is where, like any other a big run in the world, the gold rush, the industrial rush, farming, all of those had opportunities associated with them. And now more than ever, with the AI kind of growth, now more than ever, we got to check in with that creative part of us and access that. And that's what I feel like, why I've been called so much to you and the work that you're doing, is that more than ever now, is to really unlock those creative parts of us in ways that we didn't even imagine we had before. Even those of us that think we're really creative, even in there's limitations to how creative I think I can be, or how far I can go. And I really want to be able to tap into, if I'm completely malleable and I can do anything I want, how far can I take that? How far can I go with that?
Exactly. Yeah, that's the essence of my work, is inspiring people to expand the boundaries of what they believe is possible. And I truly believe that psychedelics are some of our most powerful allies, co-creative allies, to help us do that and accomplish that. And I have a very similar perspective as you. I really love that, don't check out. This is the time to check in, and I agree that yes, I am concerned about some of the aspects of AI. It would be probably foolish not to be concerned, but my elders, the people that I turn to for wisdom in my life, they encourage me. And these are elders who work with, it's hard to even put it into words, but they work with indigenous tribes that have been holding prophecy about these times for millennia. And so when I'm in those moments of overwhelm, I'm also managing a 90-acre property here in Costa Rica. And I also feel that, like, right now I'm getting into Midjourney and AI tools. My partner is an architect. We're ideating with tools. And now we just saw that there are 3D printing options that are starting to become available for whatever your mind can imagine, and I find it even interesting. And for those who have never heard of what Midjourney is, it's a text to image generator. And so it teaches your mind actually how to think more creatively. The prompt is imagine, and then put in your prompt. And when you look at it, it's like, actually, there's a lot of parallels between AI and psychedelics, because psychedelics help to enhance our imagination. That's the one tool we need to leverage more than ever right now, our skill set of imagining. But to come full circle back to my elders, what they really recommend is pay attention to the fall, the transition, be aware, but don't let that awareness suck you into a black hole. Just, it's there, pay attention, and keep going forward on your mission, on your path. And being able to actually, the biggest call right now is to literally step into the authentic expression of who we are. And that is so much easier said than done when there's been so many levels of conformity and this way and that way and political correctness and all the things. So I think it's really essential that as we move through this time of transition, that we stay aware of the systems change that are happening right now, that so many infrastructural systems like our educational system, our financial system, they're changing, they're shifting, and people want a change. And I think it's good to stay informed, but to not get sucked into fear and worry, and to just stay incredibly steadfast and stay so focused on what is inspiring us and where our curiosity is leading us. And there's a quote actually by Seth Godin that comes to mind that says, you know, this is the riskiest time to play it safe. This is not a time to do what you've always done. This is a time to make a new choice, to listen to that, whatever it is that's tugging your heart, that's tugging your awareness, that's saying, hey, what about this idea that you've been having on the back burner for all of these years? What if you went for that? And the reason that, and this is going to tie it full circle to what we were talking about earlier, the reason to me why healing and creativity are two different sides to the same coin is that we create to make sense of our lives. And it's an incredible journey when you say, I'm going to set out on this deeply meaningful journey to bring this inner vision, this idea to life. And as we embark on that journey, the thing that we create actually creates us in return. And it ultimately really becomes a story of who we're becoming. And so I invite people listening to this to really reflect on, you know, what's the vision of your life that you're stepping into? And are you thinking about that? Are you reflecting on the vision of who you are becoming? And what would that look like if you expanded what you believed was possible and you really created a life that was beyond your wildest dreams? You know, what new thoughts would you have to think? What beliefs would you have to rewrite? What new actions would you have to take to live in alignment to make that a reality? And ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, we are the creators of our lives. We're co-creating our lives. And so, like I said, you know, creativity is our birthright. And so if anyone was to take anything away from this, you know, psychedelics or not, like get on board with the narrative that you are creative by definition of being alive, and get into the driver's seat of your life and create what you want to create and take the risk. It's worth it.
It's needed. I mean, if I were to say to you, I offer my friends a gift all the time. I said, look, here, I give you my magic wand. Here you go. And the magic wand comes with a gift that says, please take away all fear, that there is no fear to be had. And if I take that fear from you, now you can do anything you want. What is the gift that you have for the world? Because at this now time, more than ever, the constructs of who you were and the beliefs that we are getting it right or wrong are gone, right? And to find out that today in fact, others are looking for that. They're looking for us. Hey, is this okay for me to go ahead and do what I always wanted to do? And the answer is yes. You know, when I watch you and the work that you're doing, it's a gift to the planet. It makes me more bold, right? When I watch you be bold, I get to be more bold and step into a space knowing that the world is more ready today than ever before to step to a new place. And we all want to watch. We're all looking for each other. Going, oh, you're good. We're good. We can do this. We can. Yeah. We can do this. Let's go. And it's a gift. And I think you're hitting it right on the right spot. Stay more conscious. Be the gift of being bold and stepping out to the new idea.
Mm-hmm. When there is something that you want to bring forth, that you want to go for, whether it's bringing an idea to life or following a passion or maybe a different job, whatever the situation is, when something captures our awareness and our attention and it has the capacity to wake something up within us, pay attention to that. You know, when people ask me, well, how do I prepare for these times of change? Well, it's, you know, training the mind, learn how to augment your cognition. That's a big part of my work, augmented cognition. learning how to reach for tools and work with tools like AI versus, psychedelics versus creative thinking skills to think better. We're all taught how to think. We're not really taught how to think very well, and to how to refine ideas that can really inspire change. So equip yourself with that. And beyond that, pay attention to that thing that is tugging within you that's saying, hey, pay attention to me. There's a reason. That is inspiration. That's the spirit of inspiration knocking on your door, offering you life force, offering you energy to basically pursue that, whatever it is that is for you. And it's a gift. It's a gift to feel that. We don't always get blessed with that opportunity to have inspiration knock on our door and say, here, I'm going to infuse you with all this energy. Just go for it. That's really a blessing and a gift.
Well, and as we step through this new creative way of being, right? The new creative consciousness that we're going to push some internal buttons, right? There's going to be some stuff that says, well, this isn't the same. Is that right? Right? My feeling feels that the fear that we have for being different, we're starting to notice that we're starting to create new language. We're noticing it, right? We're starting to create new languages about sexuality, new languages about ways of being, new languages about what I want to do with my life. I don't want here. The fact that you live in Costa Rica in an open air house is it's a new this is what I want. It's different than the suburban factory homes that are out there, and through that, you're tapping into a new consciousness. And my belief is that we all want that. In fact, as I watch you do that, as I do that, as others around us do that, we inspire others to go bigger. And I feel like this is where the world needs it more than ever. As we go through this, we could get afraid and say, okay, our world in fear, my possibilities get smaller. Right? When I'm in fear, I get really small about ideas. It's like
literally.
Yeah, like it just goes, okay, oh my God, again, like just surviving. And that's where that brain matter, where I just keep going back over the same, rethinking the same thing over and over again. And unfortunately, the good parts get smaller and the bad parts get bigger and and I just keep reliving, re-experiencing that same fear over and over again. And there's no room for the creative part of that. And I feel like as we create these journeys, these creative sessions that you're putting together, it opens up the door again to say, okay, hey, you were just a little trapped there for a moment. It's not who you are. It was just for a moment, it was a loop. And now I notice that there's billions of other possibilities, and you're already there. You don't need anything to go there. It's like you're already connected to all that. You just forgot, right? This consciousness kind of feels like I forget.
Yeah, it's interesting. I want to actually name something that you're pointing to, because there's a reason we call it a growth edge. What I was expressing earlier is not all sunshine and rainbows, but you go for the thing because you know in your heart that this is your path and that you are willing to go for it despite everything. The thing that's bursting out of you that's like, I am going to go for this despite the fact that people are going to judge me, because people do judge you. When you're at the forefront, if you cultivate yourself as a thought leader, you are by definition pushing the boundaries of conventional thinking. And it can be lonely actually at that boundary. And when you think about, for example, neuroplasticity, which is what psychedelics help to support, they support neuroplasticity. When we're learning something new, okay, when we're in the process of learning something, which is the transition of change, when we're in that process of, it's one thing to be like, yeah, expand the boundaries of what you believe is possible, like woo, but actually I'm really talking about it from a very scientific perspective. And when we do that, you are going to meet your growth edge, and that is by definition uncomfortable. The brain, when you are learning a new skill, the brain releases norepinephrine, adrenaline. It agitates you. You get uncomfortable. Then mind goes into, oh, this is too hard. I want to back away. This is overwhelming. But actually, when you train yourself how to hold your center in the middle of discomfort, which is actually the essence of what psychedelics teach you how to do, is how to sit in your center despite the fact that shit is hard. That's real. That you train yourself over and over and over again to hold space for discomfort. It actually makes meeting your growth edge in the journey of creating and creativity so much easier. And you lead from that place of, this is my truth. Therefore, I'm going to be able to withstand the judgment and the people who don't agree with what I'm saying. You know, when I came out of the psychedelic closet about 5 years ago now on social media, I lost thousands of followers. Like, it was like it blew people's mind. People were just like, this is too much. I can't wrap my head around this. And that's okay, because this is my truth. You know, at that point, I'd been journeying with medicines for over 15 years. You know, it was like, this is who I am. And because of that, it's like, okay, then let's part ways. You know, and sometimes people have mean things to say about it, but that's actually a sign that you are encouraging someone else to think differently. So I sign up for that. I signed up for that as part of my path. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm here for. And so you learn how to navigate the difficulty that you will inevitably face in the journey.
It surprises me that nowhere in any of my education did I learn that it was okay to be uncomfortable. Nowhere, right? In fact, it was all taught to do what they do, and you'll be and that there was some comfort, but there was ultimately a discomfort in it, right? There was really this discomfort, this disconnect from you and me, and the belief that we look. There was actually an underlying resentment towards it, right? If I really look at what happened in my disconnect there becomes this, I really am not that. I don't believe in any of that stuff. In fact, I every time I went to school, I'm like, I don't believe in any of this. I don't know why I need to go to this school, and everything those teachers are teaching me, I don't relate to it. And there was some basic stuff I like I love to read, I love to math, but as I got into college, there were things that, as an entrepreneur, that way more excited me, like the ability that I could use my language to communicate with people in a way that I never met. Like, I remember the first time I made a sale with my voice. I never met the person. I actually never met them, and I made a sale. The lady sent me $20,000 over the phone, and I thought, there's something about creating a vision and a way of talking that excites me. Like, learning that whole thing was, I didn't know that you can paint a vision, you can create something that was beautiful, and create a relationship with somebody that you had never met before, and that was a creative edge that I wasn't on. Now my path changed from that a little bit. I went to a different business, and each of those creative parts of me, I that felt great. Every time I go to that new spot, that's really like, even this podcast. I will tell you that every time I sit in front of this mic, I'm like, my brain goes, what are you doing? You're a fraud. You're no, stop. You stop. And I listen to myself like, no. But every time I do it, there's something inside me, like having this with time with you, like I tickle inside, like the journey of opening this conversation, looking at a new light, to be able to stand in. This is a really uncomfortable, unusual conversation to unwind to the social construct of people who go, look, you hippies are out there doing these drugs things, and there's something different that's happening, right? This isn't back in those back alley hippie days of drugs. This is now a new place of vision, of creativity. There's a calling to my being that says, maybe if I can explore this, and I can explore this with others, we can start to unwind really magical ways of being that didn't exist even a week ago, or even before this podcast. That in this work that we do together, we unwind what we've always been looking for, is a creative voice that we can go play on this. We can play together, which what I want. I want to play with you. I want to play together in creativity in a way that inspires each of us to be bold and brave.
Yeah. Yep. And that's really the essence of what it means to be alive, and making sense. You know, so much of what we do with our lives is just meaning making. We're just trying to figure out what it means to be alive. You know, we forget, but it's pretty remarkable that we're able to sit here and be consciously having a conversation, let alone, how many miles apart. It's really remarkable. And I think we forget that miracle. And it's such a small blip in time. In less than several 100 million years, the sun is going to swallow the earth because the sun's expanding. And so when you zoom out and you think, wow, even the fact that there's life on a planet right now is really, it's a total anomaly. It's really remarkable. So what are you doing with your life? Like, how are you living before you die?
Yeah, yeah, right. And that's exciting, right? The possibilities are endless. I can only imagine what it must have been like to be a stagecoach operator, right? Your father, their father, they ran a stagecoach. Imagine, right? They're stagecoach operator. They got horses and they're running through the wild, wild west, and all of a sudden one day a car comes by, and what that had to feel like what is that thing? It makes noise. They're going to kill people. Oh my God! There was this difference that were out there. And then the first time someone took a ride from a horse to that, and think, oh my God, I can do this. There's no feed. There's something inspiring about it. And I feel like this is what we're called to do today. But how do we start to look at the world with so much inspiration? Because you're right, it's kind of funny. We're on this rock, swirling, hanging by a thread. I mean, really think of what hangs us to the sun, the gravitational pull of this rock pulling around a fireball that's going to burn out one day or swallow some. If you think about this now piece of time, the fart of our existence, right? In time, I saw someone the other day, Neil deGrasse was talking about
Hmm.
the size of the known universe, and he said they explained it like, all right, if you took an 8 ounce or 12 ounce 12-ounce cup of water and imagined how that relates to the ocean, right? That's about as much as we know about it. And how we start to look at this as a possible, or where possibility exists. Now, put that into what we really need to do to be bold and brave. That our littleness now. It's time for us to really take that step. So, we could go on for hours, and I want to. I would like to do this more and more with you, and to continue to do this as we start to really go down this consciousness. But before we run out of time, I know we're about to run out of time because I know our producer's got to get going here. What I want to uncover a little bit about is how people get a hold of you, and how we start looking at Lori, how you look at your program and kind of the thoughts behind it.
Yeah, thank you for that invitation. So my home base is lauradon.co, and I'm also on Instagram at livefreelauradee, and on LinkedIn, all the main sites. I'm not on Twitter, but my podcast is also where I'm putting out regular information, the Psychedelic Leadership Podcast. And I will be announcing dates fairly soon for a 6-month program for people who want to cultivate their thought leadership, content creators, entrepreneurs, people who want to develop their capacity to adapt in times of change, who also want to explore cultivating a practice with these medicines, whether it's microdosing or mini dosing, or people who have more experience will be going deeper. And learning the tools, the creative thinking skills, and the other tools that can help us augment our cognition, think better, develop ideas, articulate ourselves in ways that really help to inspire change. And so I curate my groups very carefully, and so it's a pretty robust application process, depending on people's occupation, what their intentions are, how much experience that they have. And it's really an amazing experience to come together with other people on this path who want to learn how to think bigger, think differently, disrupt old patterns, meet their growth edge. And so part of that program, we meet on a regular basis for real-time microdosing practice, microdosing and flow. Flow is a big part. Cultivating flow and everything that surrounds that is a big part of the programs that I teach. So we do real-time microdosing practices together. There's multiple modules that we cover each month, and time for real-time coaching, where we come together and then everyone else gets put in a subgroup and sub cohorts, so everyone journeys with a few other buddies along the way too, to help support the preparation, the integration of these journeys. And so yeah, that's one aspect. And then the retreats are also another big aspect. I was in the retreat space for 12 years, and then COVID hit, and we took a little bit of a pause on that. And I'm excited to be getting the retreats up and running again as well. I have a ton of free opt-ins, like amazing free guides. So how to have a safe psychedelic journey at home, a free 8-day microdosing course, integration guides. If you go to my website, lauradon.co, and just hit the downloads tab, that will get you on my email list, and you will be able to stay tuned to all the things that I'm putting out there. And I share exclusive content with my email list that I'm pretty excited. I just hit 10,000 subscribers to my email list. So, you know, and I really put a lot of heart into what I write. And I very carefully craft these emails that really create content for people to walk away with a lot of value after reading them.
I mean, look, audience, if you're not getting that, this is the place to go tap into that creative edge, to go play with a master, of the creative growth edge. You're missing this. And Laura Dawn, I want you to know, Laura Dawn, I want you to know, I really do cherish the work that you're doing. It is different. It's different. It's creative. It's inspiring. It really does help us as we take this journey to the biggest growth we have ever experienced. Right now, it's time to be more creative than we've ever thought about, and the doorway through this gets wider as we journey with the practitioner like yourself. I think that, and it feels really comfortable to take those steps, even though I don't know if my foot will hit the ground. Just knowing that I'm going to take a step, and when I get there, the ground will be there with it. So I'm just so grateful for your time and your gift to the planet. I will make sure all those contacts will be down below. We'll have all of that down there. And audience, if you got anything that you'd like to say to Laura Dawn, please make sure you put in the comments below. I'll make sure that she gets all of the questions, and we'll get you back responses and all the connectedness to her group and the work she's doing. So thank you. And if you could take a second and like and subscribe, that makes the world of difference to me. Laura Dawn, thank you very much for the time. You are a gift to the planet. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's just a joy to be discussing all of my favorite topics. So thank you for giving me the space to live in my joy.